Hey, what's up, YouTube? Today I'm going to be talking about some of the experiences I've had with doing meditation and trance states and that sort of thing. Um, so to start, I um, practice a lot of different things. I meditate a lot. I do a lot of trance states and kind of getting myself in trances for like long periods of time. A few weeks ago, I got home from work, or actually, no, I think I had a day off, and I was like, yo, you know what? I'm not really doing anything. I don't really like playing games that much. I usually just read and make music or whatever. Um, and I was like, yo, I think I'm gonna fucking meditate and like get myself into a trance, right? So I go sit on my bed and I'm sitting there for about 5 minutes ish at first, just clearing my head, just like getting into the trance, right? So I'm sitting there, I'm focusing on my breath. I'm like, I'm getting tapped in. I'm lowering my I'm heightening my awareness and lowering my perception of my uh like whatever, right? I don't know all the details, right? Um, so I'm sitting there and I get to a point where I don't really have any thoughts anymore, and it's just this sort of trance. I usually do like a mantra or just focus on do breath work or whatever, and gets to a point where I'm like, okay, everything's quiet. I'm just gonna sit here and breathe for a little bit, and I'm breathing for a while, and then I start to lose perception of my breath, and then I start to lose perception of my heart rate, and then it's just pure presence. Like I'm not even perceiving the time in between heartbeats, and I don't even feel like I'm breathing, right? I'm just sitting there, right? Like I literally feel like I'm dead, right? And I start to get kind of tired, right? And I'm like, the thing about that awareness, that level of awareness, is it's kind of scary at first. You're kind of sitting there and you're like, fuck, dude, like, am I actually dead right now? And because it literally feels like I died. Like it's like one of those things where like it takes about I don't know, I don't time it, but it's like it takes about like 20-30 minutes for me to get to a point where my awareness is so high that like I'm not even perceiving like my like when I say awareness, I'm not talking about like the awareness of my surrounding environment. I just mean like pure awareness, right? And so I'm like sitting there and I'm like I don't feel shit. I'm literally just sitting there. And I'm like, I'm getting kind of tired. I think I'm gonna lay down and take a nap, right? Because I usually do that after I meditate. I usually take a nap or like, um, never mind. Um, it's one or the other. And so I lay my head down, and I'm starting to fall asleep in sort of that hypnagogic area between like asleep and awake. Um, fucking the awareness comes back out of nowhere, right? Like that like heightened awareness where it's like I'm just pure essence. I'm just soul, right? I'm just the pure observational force of being human or whatever the fuck. Or not even of a human. Like the idea of being human is gone. It's just like pure awareness, right? And I get kind of scared. I'm like, yo, like I wasn't meditating. Why is this back right now? Why am I dead ass fucking feeling this right now, right? And I start to feel like, oh, I feel like I'm about to die. Like I start to feel this impending doom wash over me, right? And as I say that, right, I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna take a nap. My eyes are closed, right? And the darkness of my eyelids cascades into a room, and I'm like, that's weird. And I'm like, this is getting really weird. So I get up to turn on the lights, right? And I get up to turn on the lights, and I'm like, okay, I'm in my room, and I start walking around, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go walk around my basement because I live in a basement. So uh, so I start walking around my basement, and it's bigger. I'm like, what the fuck? Why is I'm like, what? Why does it feel bigger in here, right? And there's all these like hallways and shit, and I'm like walking around these hallways and stuff, and I'm like that these hallways, I don't remember these hallways in my basement, and you know, I like I'm like what the fuck is going on, and then I'm like, I walk to this. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna explore these hallways because I don't remember these hallways being here. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go walk down this one hallway. So I walk down this one hallway, and there's like this barbershop. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why is there a barbershop in my basement? What the fuck? Right? And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go walk into this barbershop. And I walk in, and I see my grandpa. I see my grandpa getting a haircut, and I'm like, where the hell am I? Right? And um, I'm like, this is weird. But I'm continuing as usual. You know, I keep walking down. I leave that barbershop because I'm like, this is weird. And I get to this big open room, and on the other end of the room is this doorway to another room, but it's like extremely dark. Like I mean the type of darkness that isn't just in luminance, but in like spiritual dark. Like it felt like there was like a dark energy coming out of that room, and dividing that room from the room that I'm in is this like kind of dog gate thing that you, if you have like a small dog, a house dog, like a small little house dog, right? It's like the gate that you would use to like make sure that the dog doesn't get into the kitchen or whatever, right? So I walk up to it, and I'm like, you know what, I want to see what's in there, right? And because I start to hear like this sound, this like this bass, like this like deep guttural fucking bass sound that's just like, it sounds like almost like a dubstep song without the drums. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I want to see what's in there, right? So I move the dog gate, and I walk in, right? And there's these two staircases down divided by a wall. And it gets even darker. Like, I mean, like, so dark that I just got goosebumps, like, kind of thinking about that, right? And it was so dark down there, but there's this, like, bass sound emanating from that fucking room down there. I'm like, okay, I gotta find out what that is. And as I walk closer to the stairs, all these little spiders start falling from the ceiling. And I'm like, what the fuck? I like spiders, so that didn't bother me, right? I'm like, well, I can't have these spiders on me. So I started trying to brush the spiders off of my sweatshirt because I was wearing a sweatshirt, and I was wearing exactly what I was wearing when I went to lay down, right? And I started brushing these spiders off, but as I'm doing it, my hand is getting caught on my clothes, and I'm like, why is my hand getting caught on my clothes, right? And it started to turn into this like weird sticky goop tar, right? And my hand started getting stuck, and the spiders started going up my arms and up my sleeves and stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna try and take off my sweatshirt with my other hand. So I start to try to take my sweatshirt off with my other hand, and I'm like, I start to panic because like my clothes are getting stuck on my body, and I'm like, what is going on, right? And that was the scary part. The spiders are spiders, you know, like whatever. Like I'm not scared of spiders, right? But the fact that the spiders were crawling on me, and I'm trying to take off my clothes, and it was getting stuck, it was making me panic. And the bass was getting louder. The dubstep sounds were getting fucking louder without the drums. And I was like, okay, this is really fucking weird. And then as I'm saying that, I fucking wake up. I fucking wake up. And that didn't feel like a dream. Like the reason why it didn't feel like a dream was because when I went to lay down and go turn on the lights, I had the full somatic sensation that I was awake still. That I was still awake, and that I like, it didn't feel like a dream the entire time. Like the entire time I didn't even feel like I fell asleep. And that's the scariest thing, right? Is like I got up out of bed. Like that's the thing, is like when I laid down, like it felt like I had just laid down, and I got scared because of that like weird perception thing I was talking about earlier, where like I felt like I had died. And I got up. I literally felt like I got up and turned on the lights because I was scared, you know, because I wanted to go get water or something because I was like feeling weird. And so I did that, and I thought like I thought that I was just I like I don't know what happened. Like it was just so weird. It didn't feel like a dream. It felt like I went to a different parallel reality that was like a darker version of where I live. And I just was like, I was in shock for like the rest of the day. Like the rest of the day I was like literally like, what the fuck was that? Because it wasn't a dream. Like the thing is I do a lot of lucid dreaming, and I do a lot of dreaming in general. You know, because I don't, like I said earlier, I don't play a lot of games, and I don't really like just like mindlessly scrolling that much. So I do practice meditation. And I do practice different things, right? And yeah, it was just fucking weird. It didn't feel like a dream in the slightest. Like it felt like I was just still like awake, and you know, you could say, oh, you know, you probably fell asleep and didn't realize it, right? Clearly, you know, the weirdest part though was when I initially got up from the dream or whatever. I don't know what the fuck that was, right? I didn't feel like I had slept. I felt like I had laid back down, and that's the weirdest part. Was it was like I just opened my eyes, right? Like there was like this period where it was like, okay, from that room to me opening my eyes, it felt like I just had skipped ahead a little bit from me like being like maybe traumatized from this like weird experience, right? And I went to go lay back down. It felt like I went and I literally felt like my legs had been walking around. And that's the weirdest part. It was like when I woke up, it felt like I had actually been walking around. And I was like, because like I kind of was like almost dehydrated, not dehydrated, but it felt like I needed water because I had been walking around. I felt my legs like, you know, like how like when you've been walking around for a minute, like the bottom of your feet kind of like you can still feel the pressure from the weight of your body sort of deal when you lay down again or whatever. That's literally what I felt. It was just so odd. It was this weirdest experience that I've ever had. And I do attribute it to the sort of practice that I did before that, right? And I guess what that taught me outside of like the personal stuff that I've written in my journal, in my diary and shit, is that reality is 100% an illusion. This is an illusion, and we are experiencing only one common illusion amongst all of us, so that there can be like stability for whatever reason. I don't know why. I'm not going to try and ask the why or the how, but my intuition, like the intuition that tells you that like this is a drink, right? This is something that like if I showed you this, you'd be like, yeah, that's a drink. And we're both like it's that sort of level of intuition now where I'm like, okay, yeah, this is definitely an illusion, some sort of simulation, some sort of thing within a thing, within probably another thing, within another thing, right? I don't know, right? Like it's definitely like this onion of shit, right? And I felt like I peeled back one of the layers and I was like pushed to this other reality to teach me something, and I'm not 100% sure what that was, right? And I've been spending a lot of time trying to decipher what that whole experience was, and I guess I'm posting it. I'm posting this video to hopefully maybe get some comments from people who also practice, to try and get a better understanding of what this was, because it was so shocking and so jarring that it like I have a lot of experiences where I'm pulled out of my body and shit. So I'm not really that freaked out by being pulled out of my body, right? Like that's kind of common for me at this point now, to where it's like it's kind of normal to feel like my you know, I feel like an out of body sort of experience, right? Like that's normal for me at this point. But the whole experience of me walking around, getting up and walking around as if I had just laid down, and then waking up but feeling like I hadn't slept and I had actually been walking around, like that's not common with dreams. Like I've never had that experience with a dream before. So it's just one of those things where it's like, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Like you don't even have to fucking believe this story or whatever, but it is really weird. I don't know what it was or where I was, but yeah, that's one of my, that's, I just wanted to share that. Thanks for watching if you got this far. More videos on the way. I'm going to take a little bit of a break for Christmas and stuff, but starting January, I am going to have sort of a schedule with what content I post and what I post, because you guys are all watching me, and that's really cool. And we have 13,000 subscribers. Crazy. Nuts even. Okay. Love you guys. Peace.